You're listening to Fox Cities Murder Mayhem, your bi-weekly dose of true crime history in a small rural community of Wisconsin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fox Cities Murder Mayhem podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm Gavin.
And we are back again, Gavin.
Yes.
Are we traveling? What fun city are we off to today?
We're in Oneida.
Okay, cool.
Not the Oneida Reservation.
Oh, not the Oneida.
But Oneida, which is like next to the Oneida Reservation.
Okay. I didn't realize there was an actual city, Oneida.
I could be wrong. Maybe Oneida is on the reservation, but I feel like it's not. They're not exactly the same thing. Yeah, I gotta apologize first before we really get going, because on my drive here, I was like, wait a second. Did we ever do that episode about the guy who got the death penalty in Wisconsin?
That's right. We have not done that episode.
So, yeah, I have to apologize because it's written, but it is not what I have today. So that one's going to get punted a few episodes. It's ready to go. It's just we haven't recorded a Fox Cities in a little while, so it ended up getting lost in the pile.
It gives you an idea of just how many episodes Gavin has written at this point in time. So
it's going well, yeah. But this one we're going to the town of Oneida, and it's going to be fairly short. So feel free to throw things in and get us off track.
Okay.
So first we've got William Gaunt. William Gaunt is born in Ontario in 1857. He gets married in Canada, and shortly after that, they move and settle in Door County, Wisconsin. They settle in a town that I am not even going to try to pronounce. Like, there's no way I can possibly get it right. But it's a town in Door County.
Is it a town that still exists?
Probably, but I had never heard of it before this episode.
Okay.
It starts with an N. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
The couple has 8 children, and they would live on that same farm for over 40 years, farming in Door County. If you want to look this up?
I will look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nasewaupee.
You did that way too fast. Nasewaupee. Nasapi? No, Wasapi?
Sure. I assume it's still there.
It is still there. It has a population of 2,061 people in a 2010 census.
Okay, see, so there's people there, but I had never heard of this place, and I don't want to even try to mess with that word.
And it looks like it's literally it's just another part of Sturgeon Bay.
Oh, okay.
From the looks of it.
Okay.
It's right there. So.
Good. So William, runs this farm. He's got his nice big family with him. His first bit of tragedy comes in 1906 when he inhales too much smoke when he's burning stuff on his property. And his doctor says, "You have breathed in too much smoke. You have to go back to Canada where the air is clean, and that will help clear you out." So he goes on a vacation back there. A couple of years go by. His son, John, dies at the family farm after suffering from cancer of the glands. Like exactly what that is, open to interpretation. He was treated at Mount Sinai Hospital in Milwaukee and then brought to Chicago to be treated, but the doctors told him there was no hope for recovery. So he spent his final days raising cattle and hogs on the family farm before dying of cancer at age 31.
Wow.
The father, who had breathed in smoke, apparently never recovered from breathing in smoke and got mentally worse and worse from there on out, to the point where he was declared insane. He was repeatedly being sent to the asylum. He would go to the asylum, get better, and have to be sent back to the asylum again because he would have ongoing bouts of insanity.
And they don't give any specifics as what an ongoing bout of insanity is?
I don't know what he was doing that they felt he needed to be committed. But at one point, his son Mike takes out newspaper ads and warns people, please do not give my father credit or conduct any business with him because he is insane.
Okay.
So they're like, yeah, if he comes to you and he tries to do things like, no, don't interact with him.
Your answer is no.
Yes, do not. A few more years go by, and now we're going to get to another one of William's sons, and this is Steve. Stephen William Gaunt. He was just called Steve in the newspaper, so I'm just going to call him Steve. Has a nice farm. He has a farm in Oneida. It's 80 acres. But apparently, Steve also has some mental health issues. On September 26, 1926, farm laborer William School was found murdered on Steve's farm. William School's originally from Freedom, but he was helping out in Oneida. They're pretty close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
School had his head bashed in with a rock, and a large pool of blood spread from where he fell. The day before this, Steve was visited by brothers Mike and Leo, who thought he might be going insane. After leaving, they called the sheriff, Peter Schwartz, to check up on Steve. They said it wasn't urgent, but they wanted him to just do a welfare check. So the next morning, when Sheriff Schwartz went to the farm to check on Steve, he found, yep, I think Steve might be insane because there's a murdered man on his property.
Wow.
After talking to Steve, he decided that he was demented, and he suspected that he might have gone crazy by drinking bad moonshine. The sheriff reported that Steve had the strength of 10 men, and it took the sheriff a half an hour just to get the handcuffs on him. He was said to have a fury almost beyond comprehension. He had to be both handcuffed and strapped down, and to get the straps on, it took 4 extra men to do it. The sheriff was there, his deputies were there, and the 2 brothers who had been there the day before came back and helped tie their brother down onto the gurney or whatever.
This story is so peculiar, it's almost unbelievable to me.
How's that?
Well, just like they're almost like portraying this guy as like a Paul Bunyan figure, like his power and might that it takes 4 men to control him and stuff like that. It sounds like a fairy tale in ways.
He's wild. At the jail, Steve Gaunt admitted that he was the one who committed the murder, but his story was somewhat incomprehensible, and allegedly he used an axe. When police went back to the property, they found 2 axes, but neither one of them had blood on them, so they didn't think that he used an axe. There were 2 stakes that were found, stakes like tent stakes, that were found covered with blood, but they looked like they had blood on them after the fact, like somebody was bleeding and got blood on them.
Mm-hmm.
When searching Steve's house, they found a 40-gallon still, dozens of gallons of moonshine, and a large quantity of homemade wine. So this kind of, went along with the idea that, he might have gone crazy from drinking bad moonshine. The sheriff speculated that maybe the cause of the murder was that these 2 men were not just business partners as far as one worked for the other on the farm, but maybe they worked together selling moonshine. And something had happened where they were fighting over the profits. The sheriff told the press, this is just speculation. I don't know, because one guy is dead and the other guy is just talking gibberish. So I don't know what happened, but that might have caused the fight. The story was picked up by the Kaukauna Times, who noted that Steve's 80-acre farm was roughly 1/2 mile from the Murphy Quarry and was next door to a farm owned by the mayor of Kaukauna at the time, a man named Sullivan. The mayor told the newspaper that a streak of blood 10 feet long was near the door of Steve's house, but no other signs of struggle were obvious. Sullivan and other neighbors said... So Sullivan goes there, and him and the neighbors say, like, yeah, he's he's been a little off for a while now. This is not news to them.
Mm-hmm.
I will point out here for people familiar, it says that the place is roughly a half mile from the Murphy Quarry. Now, to me, when you say Murphy Quarry, that's the big quarry in Kaukauna that's like down Plank Road, kind of near the river or near the canal. That there must be a separate Murphy Quarry they're referring to.
Because that's nowhere near Oneida.
Right. Like, you cannot, there's no way you can be like, that's a half mile from Oneida. Like, there's no way that measurement works out. So I just want to point out that I think that the Murphy Quarry they're referring to must be a different quarry.
So now, did you say the two brothers kind of became concerned of his mental status too?
Yes.
Are they local that they would know this, or are they getting...
Well, they're local enough. So I don't know where they all live, but between Oneida and the town in Door County that I'm not going to try to pronounce, like, it's not that far.
Yeah.
So like,
so they probably
check up on each other fairly regularly.
So they're not like working on this farm around Steve on a regular basis by any means.
I don't think so.
So they're probably, just like the neighbors said he's been kind of slipping, maybe the neighbors tip them off to like, you might want to check on your brother. It seems like something's going off the rails on him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. And also, I mean, at this point, their father's been in and out of the asylum. So I think the brothers are kind of, they know, like, when they see certain things, they're like, oh, yeah, we saw this in Dad, too.
Yeah, I suppose.
So they probably got hints that things were going to go wrong, like, months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Before he got really weird. The district attorney ordered a coroner's jury. He spoke to Steve Gaunt in the jail, but told the press, Gaunt's actions were peculiar when I talked to him, and he would only repeat an apparent insane sentence in which he kept saying, use judgment, use judgment, use judgment. A coroner's jury was assembled. I wrote down the people who were in it. They're nobody of any importance, but when the notes are online, you can look if you want. The jury toured the murder scene and also examined the body, which was at a funeral home in Little Chute, being overseen by the coroner. Why in Little Chute? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Witnesses were the brothers and the neighbors, and cause of death was ruled to be a blow to the left side of the head caused by Steve Gaunt, which, you know, not really a surprise there. Everybody kind of knows what happened, why they fought. I mean, that's not what the coroner's jury is there for. They just want to determine the cause of death. And the cause of death is pretty obvious. He's been hit in the head and blood came out. So an unnamed local government official told the press that the murder was, quote, one of the most brutal ever encountered in the annals of Outagamie County. And that stuck out to me because I really disagree with that. Like, I know this is still pretty early. This is 1920s, but I can name a handful of cases earlier than this in Outagamie County that are way worse. So, I don't know who this anonymous person is, but...
I just want to point out, too, the fact that, to me, so now they're saying that this is happening in Outagamie County. Oneida would not be Oneida County, or...
Oneida's in Outagamie County.
Yeah, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's like on this weird border between Outagamie and Brown County.
Okay. Yeah, my brain just immediately went to that it would be Brown County or Shawano County.
I don't know. So. Look it up. Look it up. Like, it's this... Oneida, I think, is like this really weird shape. If you look on really old maps when, like, the townships were laid out, townships are normally like a perfect square or pretty close to a perfect square. And Oneida is like this really bizarre, like, diagonal square.
Yeah, you're right. And it does say that it is in Outagamie County.
Yeah.
So
it's really, I don't know why it's laid out that way. I'm guessing this has something to do with the way that the land was laid out when the Oneida people moved to Wisconsin. I'm guessing, I don't know exactly, but when they platted out the townships in the area, Oneida's the weird one. Like, it doesn't really make sense. While in jail, Steve Gaunt was said to go into, quote, demoniac rages.
Wow.
Which, that's a cool phrase. He was charged with first-degree murder and bound over for trial by the judge. He was brought into court by the sheriff and 2 deputies. He had no defense attorney with him. He had no defense attorney at any point, which, I mean, I don't know what the rules are about that at this point in time, but I feel like you should probably give this guy an attorney because he's clearly not right, but that's a whole other thing. The newspaper said that Steve was pale, quiet, and did not speak in the courtroom. They could only see him quietly searching the room for a familiar face, and he found none. Sad Steve. The trial was assigned to Judge Edgar Werner. Werner decided that before he went ahead with this trial, he should probably see if Steve Gaunt should even stand trial. Mm-hmm. So he put together what at the time was called a lunacy commission, which I'm not sure what the name for that is today, but I know it's not lunacy commission.
So this is just like a board of people to decide, is this person sane or insane?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Like I know now today, you send them to like Winnebago County for evaluation and they determine like there's a whole process. I highly doubt that they call that a lunacy commission because that word is kind of not I mean, it's not offensive, but it's not really a word that we say.
Did you look into lunacy commission enough to see, is this like work in the way where they just pick common people out to come in? And this is a series
they're
of
actual
doctors.
They're doctors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
No, it's not like the coroner's jury where you don't need a medical doctor. No, for the lunacy commission, they actually get doctors.
Good.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah. The 2 doctors who are on this commission, and I would have thought there'd be more than 2, but they just, apparently a commission in this case is just 2 people, were Dr. D.J. O'Connor and Dr. G.A. Ritchie. I don't know who they are, but they were the doctors. They spent a full day with Steve Gaunt. That's all they needed was 1 day. And they determined, yeah, he's insane. While under evaluation, Steve told them that he was divine. He had powers from God and was ordered by God to kill William School because William School had the devil inside of him. He told the doctors, I had him down and he was the devil, and I had to stamp him out while I could before the devil could get going. Mm-hmm. The district attorney sat in on some of this evaluation and was pretty convinced this was not a trick and that Steve Gaunt was really having wild delusions. He told the press, he is not the type of man who, at his best, would have the type of intelligence necessary to hoodwink justice. Which... that's kind of insulting.
A little bit, yeah.
I know he's crazy because he's too dumb to fake being crazy. Like, okay, all right.
That just seems like something somebody wouldn't say, especially in a public forum.
Yeah, like that's my proof that he's crazy because we know him and he's not smart enough to pretend to be crazy. Like, okay. The doctors said that he was going through, quote, a not uncommon form of dementia, and this was not caused by the moonshine. A reporter who visited the jail confirmed that he was a dangerous maniac and spent most of his time just repeating nonsense sentences. I'm going to assume that in this period of time in the 1920s, the word dementia does not mean what we think dementia means.
Okay.
Like when we say somebody is demented, which, typically again we probably don't say that today. But when we say someone's demented, it means like they're crazy. Mm-hmm. Whereas when someone has dementia, that usually is just like a memory loss type thing.
Right.
So I'm thinking in this case, they're using dementia in the sense where he's demented.
Yeah.
So the term might have not just been, it might have been a broader term at the time. Mm-hmm. So if you hear that and you're like, oh, he's just going through dementia, I don't think that's what
it sounds a lot more than that.
Yeah. I don't think this is a downhill aging thing he's going through here. After the one day, he was determined to be insane, and the report was pretty simple. It summarized it as, the man at this time is undoubtedly insane. Like this, they went through this, it's longer, but that's the summary. On the orders of the judge, he was brought to the Central Psychiatric Hospital for the Criminally Insane at Waupun by the sheriff. And he decided that he would be judged in the future if he was ever found to be sane. The hospital is still in Waupun. It is also not called the Central Psychiatric Hospital for the Criminally Insane.
Which is good.
I mean, I think that's a much cooler name. but we don't. That's another term we don't. Criminally insane is not a term that we typically use anymore. I don't know that it's wrong. Like, you committed a crime and you were insane, so like it's not wrong, but it's not as polite as it could be.
Right. Right. And I don't think in a general census they even use the word insane anymore. It's more mentally disturbed or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you don't hear it as often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in a professional setting, like a doctor or something isn't going to refer to it as that.
Now, from here on out, what happens to Steve Gaunt, I don't know. I can tell you from the census records that he's still in Waupun in 1930. He's still in Waupun in 1940. He's still in Waupun in 1950. The census records for 1960 aren't out yet, so that I don't know.
Okay.
But he does die in June of 1968, and his death record is filed in Outagamie County.
Okay.
Which suggests to me that sometime between 1950 and 1968, he did get out. If his death certificate is in Outagamie County and not in Waupun.
They went in. You don't think they would just file the death certificate in wherever he was from, even if he was?
No,
okay.
no. Death certificate's in the county you died in.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what happened, but the weird thing is about that is the news reports just like don't seem to exist after the 1920s. I could find no mention of him being released. I could find no mention of him ever being found sane enough to go on trial. I thought was really weird. I found no obituary, which was a little surprising, but possibly there was nobody around to write an obituary for him when he got out. He never got married, he never had kids, so it's possible that nobody wrote one.
Yeah, and you think about it, like you said, when he was going through court, there was nobody there. You made that comment about how he was out looking for a familiar face, and there was nobody there.
Which was, it was kind of a sad thing. Like, I don't know that the newspaper intended it to be sad. I think they intended it more like this guy wants somebody to like back him up and be on his side, and he couldn't find anybody. But it was kind of sad because like his brothers weren't even in the room.
Right.
Like, what the heck?
And you think about it because I think you referred to at least 20 years, maybe 30 years that he probably spent in Waupun.
So he's sent there in 1926. I can tell you he's there at least through 1950.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good chunk of time. It's reasonable to expect that if he dies shortly after he gets out of Waupun, there is nobody that gives a crap about him.
Probably not. But I did find it weird that there was no article that I could find about him getting out. And I don't know how I'd love it. This is the missing piece of this one that would make this a better story. And I'd love to know that missing piece because as we've covered many, many times on this podcast, back in the day, back in the 1920s or really any earlier time, 1950s, if you killed a guy and you got sent to prison, you might spend 20 years in prison. You very rarely are actually going to spend your life in prison. This guy, he spent a bare minimum of 25 years in Waupun. Probably longer, but bare minimum of 25. Technically never actually convicted of murder. So it's kind of weird because he probably got more time by not going on trial.
Mm-hmm. And not being sane.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to me because
Which I mean, if he needs that kind of supervision, I mean, good. But it's weird that you'd spend your whole life in Waupun and never actually be technically a murderer. Like,
and the whole thing, the way it played out though, makes sense to me because while like in this era, you would have spent less time for getting convicted for a murder.
mm-hmm.
I assume, this is my perception, I did not live through this time, so I don't know. But I would assume that if getting thrown into an insane asylum in this point in time,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes considerably harder for you to get out of that insane asylum than it would be, say, today. Would you agree with that?
I think that's probably true.
Because, I mean, let's face it, back in that era, people were getting thrown in these things for what we would consider extremely ridiculous situations at this point in time. You know, like if today. I can't think of a good example of one, but I know that people were getting thrown into them for just weird things.
I would say there's a difference. You're not wrong. Mm-hmm. You're not wrong. But I think there's a difference between like the county asylums where like your family is committing you and the state asylums at Oshkosh, Waupun, and Madison where the courts are sending you there. I don't think you're wrong about it. It's probably harder to get out in this time period. I think you're spot on by that. But the weird thing is back then, like you would spend forever in there because your family kind of dumped you in there.
Mm-hmm.
Here, like I feel like there's got to be somebody who eventually has to like come around and be like, "Hey, are we supposed to let you out?" Because like
I'm sure
somebody has to have signed these papers, like committing him, like the judge or somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. You would. I mean, I don't have a doubt that people got out. I just think that they're not going to be as lenient on letting people out at this time because
I agree.
Because they were more afraid of that type of person than maybe we are today.
I agree with that. I'm just like, there seems like there's got to be a process in here because I don't know like what the process is for eventually be like, hey, by the way, if you ever get sane, we'll put you on trial. Like, well, somebody has to be periodically checking up on this, right?
Yeah. So now, do you got more to this story? Because I do have a couple other questions.
Well,
but
hit me with the questions because this story is super short. I wish there was more to it, but it's a pretty straightforward one.
The biggest thing that I see with this story, and maybe I missed you explaining this a little bit, but I think we probably can't answer this question. But when you were talking about the original father and him slipping and going insane, it was mostly tied to some smoke inhalation.
That was the speculation. I mean, my guess is it probably would have happened either way.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like it would suggest to me that if the son had something and he wasn't subjected to the smoke inhalation, there might have been something within the family that just got passed down.
Yeah, that's the reason I put that in there. Like it, as far as the story goes, it makes no difference whatsoever about the father and the other brother who died young of cancer. That's not really important. But the reason I put it in there is because if the father spent years in the asylum and now the son is committed for life in the asylum, that to me indicates a pattern.
Right.
And Steve Gaunt never had children, but that's where I think the interesting thing would have been to see what happened to those children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not a guarantee that if somebody is insane that their children's going to be insane. Now, obviously, the other brothers are probably not insane. They seem to get along just fine. But it would be interesting to see what happened to a third generation and see how that affected them. So that's the reason I put it in there, is just to see, like, this might not just be like a one-off thing. This might have been a genetic thing in there. That's why that's there.
And it also could just be that maybe Steve, I don't know, do we know is Steve like the youngest brother? Because maybe he just got subjected to way more of Dad's crazy in his life, and maybe at an age where he was more in like he could be more, I don't know, like the other brothers were old enough to realize that, okay, Dad's not okay.
I don't know that.
Wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I have that information. It's not like as far as the ages, it's not with me. But I do, as you know, whenever I do this, I put together little trees of the families. So I do know the ages of the different brothers, but at this moment I couldn't tell you who was the oldest or the youngest.
Right. I just think that would be an interesting thing to look at, just to see like okay, how could this happen? You know, because obviously the son shouldn't have had like after effects of the smoke inhalation or anything. So
no.
This is kind of.
I don't even know that was any.
Yeah,
that was related, but that was just kind of like. He went downhill after that, but it may have just been a coincidence.
Yeah, it might have just been that's when they acknowledge him going downhill, and he may have been going downhill long before that ever even happened. So.
Yeah. I think that in mental illness, and I mean, there's a difference between standard mental illness, you know, like, I would say probably the majority of people probably have some kind of mental illness. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I think to some degree that's probably true. And being insane, like there's a difference.
Yeah.
But as far as like people with mental illness, I think that people would agree. This is my experience personally, so maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there is something that kind of kicks it into gear, but it would have happened anyway.
Right.
Like it's just there's something that makes it active.
Yeah. If it wasn't the smoke inhalation, it would have been just something else. We would just be here telling this story with a different catalyst that began it all.
Yeah.
So interesting. So did you have a little bit more on this?
I really don't.
Okay.
I really don't. I wish I did. I wish I knew what became of him. I don't even know where he's buried. And he just kind of fades away.
And I almost wonder, like, does Waupun have? Well, but
Waupun
she said
Waupun has a prison cemetery, sure.
But but we're thinking that he was out of prison by then.
I think he was out of prison by then. But either way, like normally, I can find where people are buried pretty easy if it's like a marked grave.
Oh,
so it's maybe this one is just tricky and I missed it. But my guess is wherever he is, there might not be a stone there.
He might have just had nobody, so maybe in this era they just had a place where they put, unclaimed bodies for a lack of better way of putting it.
No, that's a thing. That's called Potter's Field.
Yeah.
That's a thing. And if you die, and obviously he has no money. He's been in the asylum for 30 years. Like he's got nothing. So if you get out and you have nothing and nobody is willing to put the money forward, they'll put you in what they call the Potter's Field. And today you don't really see that much anymore, but historically that was pretty common.
That's probably very much what happened, I would guess. So, wow, creepy. So, all right, then with that one, I think we can wrap this episode up. We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode. We want to thank everybody for their continued support of the podcast, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Fox Cities Murder and Mayhem. Join us in 2 weeks for another exciting episode of Murder and Mayhem.